My question to you is this. Let's label this group of people that I want to label so we can always circle back to it. What would you like to call them? The Matrix?
The Matrix.
The Matrix. So the Matrix is there. Do you feel like the Matrix is hyped up using media? Because think about it. When I walk around and I have discussions with people, not a lot of people have the same agenda that the media is having. And I think people are keeping up with it. So do you think they're flexing their power? Let me give you an example. Yeah. God is all powerful, all strong. Yeah. The devil isn't. But what his power is lies. Yeah. So he confuses you. God uses faith. The devil uses fear. Yeah. Do you think the Matrix is just full of shit and they're just fear-based?
Oh, they're absolutely fear-based.
So what is your goal? If you had to fight, like you are fighting, and you're banned from, what are you banned from? Like,
everything.
But you're on Twitter.
Elon bought Twitter and restored me. Before this, I was banned on Twitter also. I'm banned on...
Why did you get banned?
I got banned because you get 3 lives. And the 3 lives are, first you get canceled and banned absolutely everywhere. And the second life is they try and put you in jail for something you didn't do. And then the third life is they assassinate you. And I'm now on my second life, as most people have experienced in real time. I got banned because I became monumentally popular. I became hugely successful. I became the most Googled person on the planet. And then they make up a reason to get rid of you. And I'm banned on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Uber, Airbnb, Gmail, WhatsApp.
You can't get an Uber?
I can't get an Uber, no. Gmail, WhatsApp, you name an application.
All for standing up for what you believe in.
Well, yeah. I mean, I made some satirical jokes, of course. And
Could you give me an example of something that you've said that you may have crossed the line?
I don't think I ever said anything that truly crossed the line. I'm going to stand by this because I don't believe in regrets and I don't believe in sitting here and saying sorry for anything because I'm not a coward. If I made a video 10 years ago that got 84 YouTube views, and me and my brother were joking about how women can't park and women shouldn't drive. Yeah. And then I became the most Googled man on the planet. And then that is found. And then a bunch of feminists get upset by it. Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and beat myself up over that. That's life. Yeah. Oh, well, shit happens.
But also, like, stand-up comedians make the craziest jokes. Like, I was in a comedy club and they're already making jokes about Palestine.
Of course. I mean, comedians make jokes and rappers sing about murdering people. So it's completely a double standard to come along and say that whatever I said was enough reason for me to be canceled.
Well, that scares me because censorship is the scariest thing to me in the world. At what point can we not worship our God?
My phone, the day the cancellation started, I'd open my phone and app by app, one by one, logged out, logged out, logged out. Logged out, logged out. And in sync, I was sitting there for 2 hours, and every 20 minutes, a new one would just log out.
Were you scared?
I knew the Matrix was real. I knew how the Matrix operated. I knew that there's a centralized power. I was scared because I knew I'd used up my first life. And then I started saying on all my podcasts, they're going to put me in jail for something I did not do. When that happens, you have to know it's a lie. And I said it about 15 times. And then 7 months later, I ended up in a cell. So I understand exactly how the world works. So yeah, I was scared. But I also believe, and I draw a lot of strength from my religion. We talk about God. I think God gives you strength. And I also believe one of the primary objectives of a religion, which ties back into what we were saying earlier about how the world could be fixed if men and women stay together and monogamy. I think the primary objective of a religion is to preserve a culture. If a religion doesn't preserve the culture, then it's failing in some regard. You should look at a religion and look at the culture underneath that religion and say, okay, it's a successful religion because the culture is adhering to its creeds. So I understand that it is my battle, if I believe in God, to try my best to preserve the culture. And then you're asking, how do I fight the Matrix? I think you fight that via masculine empowerment, and I'll tell you why. Because we were just sitting here talking about how the devil uses fear, and you're completely correct. And I think that women are easier to scare than men. And I think that now we live in a society, especially in the West, where women have been empowered to the point, well, I'm not against female empowerment, I'm not a misogynist, but they've been empowered to the point where they're more powerful than men in most scenarios. They're more powerful than men in the divorce court, most powerful than men in the custody court, more powerful than men in terms of the education system, more powerful than men in terms of their testimony, more powerful than men. I'll give you endless examples. If 10 men get murdered, nobody cares. If 10 women get murdered, it's gonna be a national news story for weeks. Their life is more valuable. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be. It always has been because they can create life. My point is we now live in a society which I believe is a matriarchy. It's feminized. And men are feminized by extension. And men being feminized means that women are in charge and women are fearful. So let me give you a very simple example of why I believe masculine empowerment is how we actually get closer to God and how we fix the fight we're in against the Matrix. COVID. COVID was emotional arguments. They came along and said, your grandma's gonna die. The old people, your grandma. They used emotional arguments to create fear. That works on a woman. A woman sits there, I love my grandma. most men would sit there and go, wait.
Let's just chill.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Grandma's already 94. Grandmas die. So I don't think we should be taking our kids out of school. Let's just calm down. Men are more stoic and more patient. If you had a household where the man's been feminized and the woman's in charge, it's over for that house. They're full COVID cucks head to toe. 10 vaccines. They are. If you had my household, where my girlfriend ran in, did you see the news? Shh. Shut up. It's stupid.
Okay,
and then it's fixed.
So wait.
But this is the point. Fear. You're
yes.
talking about fear, the devil using fear. Absolutely correct. How does he scare people? He scares cowards. He scares people who can't fight. He scares women. He scares people who are not prepared to stand up and resist. So masculine empowerment is absolutely and utterly how you battle the devil. You need men to be as strong and capable as possible.
Okay, this is a great pivot that I want to say. Everything you just said, I agreed with. Everything you just said, I agreed with. The only problem that I see is when you were like, shut up. Let me give you an example. Here's the reason why. Everything you just said was absolutely correct. And as a man, I could look at you, and if I had children, I'd be like, yo, listen to this man. He's being very, very correct. Now, my girl's gonna be like, well, why did he just tell his girl to shut the fuck up? Like,
I said shush.
Yes. But okay, let me give you an example.
I was dismissive with my hand.
Nah, I know, but you know what this means?
Flicking the diamonds.
Get the fuck out of my face. Shh. This is what every girl here, shut up and go make me a sandwich. This is what comes off. So you're fighting getting men to be like, yes, but then you turn off the women. Here's the problem. You're trying to make men more men, but men, before they listen to you, are listening to the girls because they just got a girl. They don't want to lose them. They did everything that they could to get this girl.
Correct.
So here's the thing. When you see a fireman bust into a building that's on fire, he's not going to look at the person and be like, what the fuck? Why did you do this? He's going to be like, hey, it's okay. Look at me, grab my hand, come out. Why can't you take that approach?
I think I am. And it's actually funny when you say I lose to women, because I'll tell you something that most people probably do not know. I don't know if I've said it before. I have never had a negative interaction with a female ever since I blew up on the internet. I've not had a single woman complain at me.
I'm so sorry. Could you just use your mic?
Sure. I've never had a single woman come up to me and say anything bad. When I was in jail, I had thousands of love letters from women. I've never had a single woman complain about anything I say. Now, I agree. This dismissive, the diamonds, in the light, I get it.
Yeah.
Is it purposeful? I don't want to say it's purposeful. Do I find myself amusing? Certainly.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
It's funny.
But here's the thing: we could take a joke and we could filter the bullshit.
Yeah.
But females, like you said, they're based off of emotions.
Correct.
They're gonna feel their emotions first and then react. Men are like, oh, that's fucking hilarious. Obviously, he's not gonna tell his girl to do that. Yeah. Most likely, the real scenario is like, sweetheart, come sit down. Everything's fine. Listen to me. I'm gonna protect you.
Absolutely.
So I'm just curious to know, why don't you just take that approach? Because I know you know what you're doing. You're a chess master. Every move you make, you're making it for a reason. Are you doing it to be polarizing?
There's no light without dark. And I think that it's actually kind of interesting. I don't have many haters anymore. For a while I did. About a year ago, there was a big group of the internet that disliked me. Now I actually would argue I'm one of the most liked people on the internet.
I think people are waking up.
People, bro, if you read thousands of comments, they're all positive. I'm one of the most liked people on the internet, and I can give you reasons for why I believe that is. But the very few people left who try and dislike me, they fuel conversation, and it's interesting for me to hear. It's interesting for there to be debates regarding things I say. But I don't think I try and be polarizing. I tried to be abrasive because I grew up in a world where I was hit very hard by life, and I think life is abrasive, and I think you learn lessons with a degree of abrasiveness. I think if things are too soft and too well explained, you don't learn them. Yeah. And you can apply that to nearly anything, right? You can go driving your car and drive fast, and you can nearly lose the tires 10 times, but you're not gonna stop driving like an idiot until you hit a tree. And then you're gonna be like, okay, I've learned my lesson. Yeah. So perhaps when I display a point, if I have to self-analyze and answer your question as a professional, when I try and get a point across, if I can do something or say something which is a bit abrasive, I feel like it teaches better. I'll give an example. If I say women aren't very good at parking, as opposed to females have no spatial awareness. So it's the same thing, but one of them enrages the world. In fact, both of them make them mad, but the second one really makes them mad. Don't call women females. They hate that.
I don't.
Yeah, but I'm just warning you. But then they all get upset.
They actually get upset if you call them a female?
Absolutely. I sit on these panel shows with a bunch of women, and I'll say something positive.
I'll just say. What do you respectfully call them?
Females. I just call them female.
No, I know, but if they get offended by that, then what do you call them?
Well, exactly. But this is my point. So I can decide how abrasive I want to be. You can say the same thing in different ways, and then you're asking me why am I abrasive to be deliberately polarizing? Because I feel like it gets my message across better. I feel like it gets my message across better. And even now, the thing I just said, which brought this whole point up, me saying shh and being dismissive was a small way of showing a larger meta point. And the meta point was, I'm uninterested in what you're about to say and your fear. And I'm uninterested in your fear.
I get this. And usually somebody with a logic understands this. Somebody who's probably grew up with humor understands this. Somebody who grew up with a good father understands.
Podcast very recently, I don't think it's even come out yet, and I was explaining to somebody, we were talking about depression, which everyone asked me about.
I'm going to circle back to that. I have something in my notes for that.
Yeah, and I was saying that as a man, your life is supposed to be shit. My argument to this is people go, oh, I don't feel good. I say, good. Your life as a man is going to be terrible the entire time. Who told you at any point, I don't know what the Bible says. I haven't read it cover to cover like I've read the Quran. But I don't think the Bible says you're supposed to be happy all of the time. The Quran certainly doesn't.
Well, in Matthew, it says you're supposed to cast your anxiety and depression on them. So life isn't going to be easier, but you could go. Let me give you an example.
Sure.
When Jesus was walking on the water, this is the example I say. When a storm hits, the storm is still hitting.
Yep.
But there's a difference from you drowning in the storm or standing above the storm.
Absolutely.
And I think that you're always going to have challenges and obstacles.
Storms are going to come.
But I guarantee you, there's obstacles that you could walk through with a smile on your face that another man could fall apart.
Absolutely. I've just been through some, and I'm sure I'll have more.
What was it?
Well, it says in the Quran, just because you believe, you think Allah will not test you. Just because you believe in me, you think you're not going to be tested.
I think being tested is a great thing for
That's
you.
how God shows love.
Yeah.
Because because God's love is a disciplinarian love. It's a masculine love. It's like a father. A father shows love through putting you on the bike, letting you fall over, letting you hurt your knee, picking you back up, putting you back on the bike. That's how a father shows love, and God is the same.
Your father used to push you down when you used to be a kid.
That's right.
And your mom used to be upset about this. Let's time travel back to you as a child.
Sure.
Because I feel like what made you who you are now is based mostly off of how you were raised.
Absolutely.
Take me back.
Yeah, I think I had the best possible upbringing a person can have, which is good parents and no money. I didn't get famous or rich young, which I also thank the Lord for. I think a lot of these people who get famous online quite early, I think they miss out a lot of life.
It's not real life.
It's not real life.
It's not real life.
No, I had real jobs and I did real things and I was really broke and I was really on the bus and really trying to pay rent and doing real stuff for a long time.
I wrote a line in here and I think you could relate to it. A poor man is broke, a rich man is broken. So if you're broke, you could figure out a way to be rich. But if you were given everything and you don't know how to manage this life, you're broken and you don't feel like you've earned anything. I've met more depressed rich men than I've met depressed broke men.
It's amazing you say that because there's two answers to that. My first one is, I love that you say that because I always say, I'm not rich. I'm a poor man with a lot of money. I always used to say that. And I don't want to brag or anything, but just because I get asked this question a lot. I've been extremely successful. I have hundreds of millions of dollars. In fact, I think our last valuation across everything we own we're almost at B now. So we're doing very, very, I'm a billionaire. Top G's a billionaire. So we're doing extremely well. That's the first thing. The second thing, it's great that you say that because I completely agree. Because if you're born with everything, if you're born with all this money, that you have no aspiration, nothing to actually grasp onto and trying to achieve, then money doesn't make you happy. But then you can analyze this from another angle, right? We were just talking earlier, we can always pivot back to who the matrix are, who's in charge. So let me ask you.
Do you have somebody that
Well, let me ask you a question.
Okay, go ahead.
If you're born into a dynasty, let's say a banking dynasty, and you're born a billionaire, and you have everything you've ever wanted ever, and money has absolutely no value at all, and a brand new Ferrari doesn't mean a thing. You could buy one every 10 minutes for the rest of your life. And money doesn't make you happy. What's the one thing that's going to make you happy?
Controlling others.
Controlling others. Power. Ego. So then you sit there and start looking at things.
Because games become real.
Absolutely. So now you're like, okay, well, money doesn't satisfy me. What makes me feel important? Especially if you're going to add in. Let's add in another angle to it. Let's imagine you falsely believe, because it is falsely, that you're somehow genetically better than others. You're from this lineage. You're better than the other people. And the other people, the serfs and peasants, are struggling for money, and you have unlimited money because you're so smart and your family's always been so smart.
You'll have haughty eyes.
Yeah. So then you're going to sit there and go, well, why did they make people put on a mask when they walked in the restaurant and take the mask off to eat and then put it on to go to the toilet and then take it off to eat and then put it back on? Because
I have
I'll tell you why, because it's funny.
You
to
think
these
it's just
people.
because it's funny?
Because it's an ego. Because it's ego.
I thought it was the
power.
test to see how far they could push something.
Compliance tests.
Yeah.
Which is the same thing. So when you really understand that people who are in charge of the world are completely, like you said, broken. There are broken people. Money can't satisfy them. People said, I keep referencing COVID, and I do that because it was something tangible that everybody lived through. That's a very easy one to reference.
This is actually, it's a bad thing that could work in your favor because now they could relate to you.
Yeah.
They went through that.
Yeah.
So it's hard to explain to a broke kid what a rich kid goes through,
Yeah.
or what a broke person goes through.
Yeah.
So this is actually a huge blessing. Do you think that COVID and people's frustration on what happened to them link them to understand your theories more?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of, when I was saying during COVID about the Matrix, everyone called me crazy. And by the end of COVID, a lot of people were like, Andrew, you nailed it, day one. Because I don't think many people understand, because I wasn't nearly as famous then, but the videos exist on the internet. Me and my brother were the kings of COVID. Everyone else now understands it was garbage. Everyone else talks tough. Everyone else has their story about how they went out during
talk
COVID.
now.
But you're tough now. On day one of COVID, day one, when they still had the people falling over in the street in China.
Yeah,
and,
what was that? That video?
Yeah.
They're just running in the street and dropping dead?
Yep. When the Italian hospital was overrun, day one, my brother and I sat down and had a conversation in our war room, our cigar lounge, which was very similar to this. And we sit down and said, if this disease will kill people like you and I, military-aged males, then the world is over. It's zombie apocalypse. So what are we going to do? And we sat there and decided whether we should hide as long as possible or we should just go out all guns blazing. So we decided to go out all guns blazing like heroes. This is all documented, it's on video. And day one of COVID, when everyone else was afraid, we flew to Sweden because it was the only open country. And we spent the next 4 months.
Ironic.
Yeah.
Because who lives in Sweden?
Very strange. We spent the next 4 months in Stockholm in 6 nights a week in nightclubs with Swedish chicks partying while the rest of the world was locked in their house. Nobody talks about this. Nobody talks about the fact that Sweden was open, no restrictions, you could do whatever you wanted, nightclubs were open, everyone was partying, everyone else was locked up, not allowed to go to funerals. We were literally in parties all day, every day. I didn't even get sick, didn't even get a cold, and it was cold outside, didn't even get the sniffles. So we beat COVID, we won COVID early. So even after this experience, for the next 2 years of COVID, I'm trying to scream at people, listen, wake up. And like, oh, yeah, they wouldn't just put it on the news. They wouldn't just lie to us and try and scare us all for no reason until you understand the good and evil in the world and you understand that's how the devil actually operates. But the point I was going to make earlier about talking about how these people are broken and money doesn't satisfy them, people often say, COVID was just for money. And I say, that's actually a very optimistic view of the world. It wasn't just for money. It was for something far worse.
They have money.
They print money.
Yeah.
They make money. They are the money.
When I found out about I just learned about how they print money. I literally could not believe it.
Oh yeah, money's not real.
For 3 days, I'm sitting around, so I'm like, what the fuck is this? So they could just print this shit?
Money is not real. It's not real. They just print it. It's not real.
Fair. Please continue.
Yeah, so money's not real. And I say that to people. And they
So
go,
it's not about money.
No, it's not about money. So what's it about? It's about power and control.
Yep.
Because when you get to a certain level of wealth, and I'll talk from my own personal experience, I want people to understand I come from the lowest possible socioeconomic background. I come from a single mother household. My father and mother broke up when I was 9. I lived in Luton, England, which is the worst town in England. I grew up and went to a school with a 3% pass rate. Everyone around me was stabbing each other and selling drugs.
I thought you said your father was one of the best fathers you've ever had.
He was, but my mother and father broke up and he stayed in America and I moved to England. And he wasn't financially successful, but he taught me other lessons.
Gotcha.
And I'm glad he didn't give me money because I think that a harsh upbringing and a harsh life makes a man a man. I don't think you learn a lesson any other way. But I come from the absolute bottom and now I'm up at a position where we have a very large empire. A lot of it is shadow. Most people don't know what it is, but even our overt things, even our university and things that are online are turning over $15, $20 million a week. So we're doing crazy sums of money. So I've been from the absolute bottom to the absolute top. I've seen it all. And once you get past a certain level of wealth, once you get past a certain level of money, but then you understand what money is, right? So we say about money not being real. Money is not real from a governmental perspective because they just print it. It's nothing. But money is truthfully the stored time and energy of other people. If you have money, you have stored time and energy of other humans.
Because people are hourly rates.
That's right. Because I can take that money and make someone else use their time and energy for X thing.
Got it. So it's a different version of slavery.
Absolutely. Because if I'm going to come along and say, you're no longer my slave. As my slave, you had to work for a house and a car. You're no longer my slave. In slavery, let's actually look at slavery.
Slavery began that way.
Yeah, and slavery said, you work on my plantation, I give you somewhere to eat.
Or I'll give you my daughter.
Yeah.
This is how people would work. And that's why they were like, oh, your Bible believes in slavery. I'm like, slavery was different. It wasn't like, there was bondages and there was slavery. That's why the Egyptians, that's a whole different type of slave. But the origination of slave was like a debt. I'm paying you a debt.
Yep, completely. So let's look at even American slavery, the slavery that most Americans understand. You're going to work for me. I'm going to give you a house and I'm going to give you food and you're going to stay here and you're going to work. Slavery is abolished. So now what do? You're going to work for me. I'm going to give you that. I'm going to give you some money. And that money is enough to only buy you a house and some food. We've just put money in the middle. Now, if I can make you do whatever I want for money and I can print as much money as I want, you're my slave because I can print it from the sky and you need it to live. So you are my slave. Money's not real. So I have all of this money. I have the stored time and energy of other humans. And once you get past a certain level of wealth, you understand, which ties back to COVID, that you're not interested in money. What you're interested in is people. It's always been about having good people around you. You want a beautiful, doting, loving woman who's obsessed with you. You want good brothers who will stand by you and make you motivated. You want bodyguards who are going to protect you. You want people. And then you want to look at it further down the rabbit hole. You want to get more sinister. If you've been born into a lineage or a dynasty or the people who control the world, you want people, you want robot people. You don't want to be spoken to disrespectfully. In your empire, in your podcast empire, right? You now have a podcast. Would you allow a member of staff to come along and say, this is bullshit. I don't like how you do this. This is shit. You're shit. Or would you fire him?
I don't know if I would fire them. I would first try to teach them how to behave.
And if they didn't listen?
They're out.
Absolutely. So let's imagine you ran a country.
Okay.
All right. Let's imagine you ran the world. And then let's imagine there's this guy called Top G who sits down there and becomes the most Googled man in the world for telling the world that COVID's a lie. And you're making everybody run around and do everything you say. You're going to allow that person to get away with it? And now you start to understand, that's how the Matrix operates. So the people who are broken, raised on money, are so obsessed with power and control, which explains a lot of the society we're in, because they don't look up to God. These people think they are God. So
that's the biggest fall.
And they're trying to make robots of us all. They're trying to enslave us.
You know what bothers me more than anything is when I walk into an establishment and the person who's working is like, go to there, and they point at a machine. What breaks my heart is that machine is going to replace you.
Yep.
And you have no idea.
Yep.
So you've gotten in a place where the person above you is encouraging you to be replaced. That's like, hey, see yourself out, legitimately.
Yep.
See yourself out.
But people don't think. They don't, and they absolutely lack perspicacity. And then you go further down the rabbit hole because, like I said, there's layers to the rabbit hole. I don't know how Alex Jones you want me to go, but he's right about a lot.
All the way.
He's right about a lot of things.
There are moments in life when conversations go beyond opinions, beyond ideologies, and touch the essence of the human soul. This was one of those moments. Andrew Tate and George Janko sat face to face, two men who come from completely different worlds, yet found themselves discussing the same question that has echoed through centuries. What is the truth? And where does faith fit in a world that constantly tries to replace it with reason, ego, or power? Andrew Tate, known for his fierce mindset, sharp logic, and uncompromising strength, came to this conversation not as the invincible figure people imagine, but as a man seeking understanding. George Janko, with his gentle spirit and unwavering faith, became a mirror of something Tate had spent much of his life ignoring, a faith that doesn't demand proof, but transformation. From the very first moments, the air between them was charged. It wasn't a debate about religion, it was a dialogue about meaning. George spoke of a God who meets people not in perfection, but in brokenness. Tate listened, truly listened, not with the intent to argue, but to understand how someone could build an entire identity on something unseen. As they exchanged words, the differences were evident. Andrew Tate represented the mind, structured, analytical, questioning. George Janko represented the heart, believing, feeling, surrendering. Yet as the conversation unfolded, something extraordinary began to happen. The mind began to soften, and the heart began to reason. George talked about his past, about his struggles, about how faith wasn't an escape but a battle. He shared how real change doesn't come from willpower alone, but from something divine that renews the spirit. And Andrew Tate, with his arms crossed and his eyes focused, responded not with mockery but with curiosity. He asked the kind of questions only a man searching for truth could ask. What if God exists? What if the order, the discipline, the structure that Tate believes in so deeply were actually reflections of divine design? What if the desire to conquer wasn't just about success, but about restoring something lost within the soul? At that moment, the conversation transcended ideology. It became human. Two men, both strong in their own ways, found common ground in vulnerability. Because behind the fame, the arguments, the followers, both were men who had faced pain, doubt, and the silent nights when even the strongest realize how fragile they truly are. Andrew Tate spoke about responsibility, about the importance of building yourself, of not waiting for miracles. And George reminded him that sometimes the greatest miracle is the transformation that happens when you surrender control. That faith doesn't cancel discipline, it gives it purpose. What made this conversation powerful wasn't who won. There was no victory to be claimed. It was about two perspectives colliding and revealing something bigger than either of them. For Andrew Tate, it was the possibility that strength could coexist with humility. For George Janko, it was proof that faith could reach even those who had sworn never to believe. By the end, you could feel it. Something had shifted. Not a conversion, not a surrender, but an awakening. The kind that happens when a man begins to realize that all his victories mean nothing if his soul remains restless. Andrew Tate didn't leave that conversation the same man who walked in, and George Janko didn't leave unchanged either. Because when truth is spoken, it leaves traces, not on the surface, but deep within. This was not just an interview. It was a collision between two worlds: intellect and spirit, pride and faith, logic and surrender. And in that collision, something sacred was born: understanding. Maybe that's what faith really is. Not blind belief, but the courage to look beyond yourself. To ask questions that don't have easy answers. To realize that even the strongest men, like Andrew Tate, are still searching for something only God can provide. And maybe that's what George Janko wanted all along. Not to convince Tate, but to remind him that the path to truth doesn't begin in certainty. It begins in the moment you admit you don't have all the answers. Because at the end of the day, no matter how strong, rich, or famous you are, there comes a time when you must face the silence of your own heart. And in that silence, you either meet your ego or you meet God.